So I wanted to get you on there because it's not the first time you've gone viral, but
Mm.
I don't know if you've gone viral for basically removing a guy's head from his shoulders and then doing it
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
his brother right after. Just talk to me the experience of fighting two blokes at once. I mean, maybe not the first time you've done it, but two blokes at once in a cage and just the whole thing. Talk to me through the experience.
Um, well, as you rightly say, 2-on-1 is not a new thing to me. In fact, more than one is not a new thing to me. But to put it into a cage aspect was different. Um, I think there's a few elements that sort of really ramped it up for me. I mean, these guys have had fights before. They were relatively small, but still about 65 kilos, so not too small. And they were brothers. And I think that's what ramped it up the most in my head is that you think about it. I mean, I've got brothers, and I've had street fights with one of my brothers quite a few times, and that element just takes your adrenaline that little bit higher. You see your brother getting lamped on, and that adrenaline rushes, and you
Yeah.
you do supernatural things. So that element came into it, and that was like, through the training, it was like, right, this is just literally going to be an adrenaline fueled fight from start to finish. Whatever action there was, it was going to be adrenaline. That's what made it dangerous. I was at no illusion that there weren't dangers there, because there was dangers for me as well as them. 2v1 is very dangerous.
Yeah. When so obviously they were a little bit nervous to engage, understandably so to a point,
Mm.
but when it did get in close and you managed to get them, the one-armed power bomb was a pretty,
Yeah.
unique looking thing. And then for him to get up and then eat the right hand, I assumed the moment you landed that you knew that was one down at least.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I mean, look, the power bomb was something that I'd been training hard, picking up and just throwing. What I had to do, because it was an exhibition at the end of the day. So something that we had to drill and drill and drill was picking up, but not slamming. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, yeah.
Because that slam would literally have killed, would have killed him. So we did a lot of practicing of just picking up and letting go, and that's what I basically did, because I didn't want to, execute one of them. So yeah, the pick up and slam, and I thought that would buckle him for a few seconds at least, but it didn't. Jumped straight back up, and I don't know, he just kind of walked onto it. I just sort of right hook, put it through, and it was just so accurately placed. It was right on the chin, um, and because he was such a small guy, it just sort of went through his face. If you know what I mean? Like, usually when you hit someone, your arm slows down, you know what I mean? Or your arm jolts a little bit, and it just didn't. It just went through his head.
Yeah.
So in some ways, I think being a lighter guy, in some ways, I think was a bit safer, because if it was a heavier guy, that would have gone like a lot more power, probably would have broke a jaw. So it's got its pros and cons, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to ask him how he's feeling about being a lighter guy today, but yeah, I can see your point.
Yeah.
When did you go for the MMA route? Because I know you did the boxing, you boxed Thor and everything, and
Mm.
that was the journey for you. When did you switch to MMA? I know you worked with the Aspinalls up in Manchester area.
Yeah.
When did you make that transition from boxing to MMA?
So obviously I did the boxing fight with Thor, and that was a real tough route for me. I had a lot of things go wrong for me in the lead up, such as detaching my bicep was the main one. And going into that fight with one arm was an absolute head fuck, like the biggest head fuck I've ever had to go through in my life. But I had to man up. I had to put my bollocks on the line and just go for it, and just think to myself, like, I just had to have the confidence that in my head I was going to fuck him with one arm. That's how I went into that fight. Obviously, I lost the fight, and that was tough for me. Like, that loss was very, very hard on me mentally. Not just because it was Thor, but just because losing in general is a
Yeah.
hard thing for me to take. I hate losing things. And I guess straight after that, I got back to training about a week later, and about 2 weeks in, I just said to my coach, I was like, fuck this. I was like, I can't be fucking arsed. You know what I mean? I just wasn't, that fight was just so unenjoyable for me. Like, the lead up, the process, like, you want fights to be enjoyable, and everything about it was just doom and gloom. So I was like, fuck this, I'm done. announced I was doing bodybuilding, started training for that. And then I'd say, I don't know, 6 months later, maybe 8 months later, whatever it was, I had a contact in Qatar reach out and offered me like a stupid amount of money, like life changing money. It was over 8 figures. It was upwards of 8 figures, put it that way. And contract was thrown at me. Signed that, and you've got a fight in 6 months. So I signed the contract, and I literally balls deep got stuck straight in. Found an MMA coach, one of the best, well, the best MMA coach in my area by a mile, and just went full time. Just started training MMA full time for 6 months. The fight went to shit. The Ministry of Sport got arrested for fraud, I believe, or some kind of wrongdoing. So that fight went to shit because of that, which left me with 6 months of training and nothing to show for it. So, and I, a bit unlike the boxing, I thoroughly enjoyed every single step and process of learning MMA. It was so fun, just getting in and grappling with people and bending people over, and that sounded really bad, bending people up and and just getting the better of people, like with physical strength, and then learning the craft of standing and exchanging in MMA, because it's completely different to boxing. You can't let your guard down for a second. I was going into sparring and I was just getting kicked in the head. Like for the first few sparring, I think I put it on my Instagram, one of my very first sparring sessions. And this guy just booted me straight across the face. And that was a wake-up call for me. It was like, fuck, like this is a completely different ball game to boxing. But that excited me because it was like learning the craft of keeping that guard up a lot more, looking out for these kicks, learning how to kick. So I guess just the route and experience of the MMA has just been so much more fun for me. Hence, when the 2-3-1 came about, you know what? At first, I was like, "This isn't for me. Like, it's a bit of a circus thing. Like, it's not good for me." But these guys were adamant. We're going to do proper MMA rules. We're gonna train hard for it. Blah 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 blah. So I took it on the full intention, knowing that it was going to lead to bigger fights, and it
Right.
and it has pretty much immediately.
So for the uninitiated, what is the bigger fights? What is your plans moving forward? And where do you see your MMA journey taking you?
So I mean, as of now, Mariusz Podnowski, we're in talks, and we are literally, we've got so many promotions that have reached out wanting to take that fight on, promote it, put it on, and whatever else. But I want to get it done pretty quick. I want to fight Mariusz before the end of this year. I feel like I've got a good role, I've got a good groove with my training. It's just who comes with the biggest bid, basically, as to whether that happens or not. And I'm in no illusion, Mariusz Podnowski to put it frank, he is a hard bastard. He is a hard motherfucker. You can't deny that. He might have lost some fights, and people will, like the internet fucking commenters and trolls, say, "Oh, it's shit," and that. But he has fucked up some world champions and done very well in the sport. So you can't mock him. He won the World's Strongest Man 5 years. So he's 5 times World's Strongest Man champion. So he's got the strength. And he's been doing MMA for 15 plus years now. So, his name came up and I thought, fuck it, absolutely fuck it. He's getting old, he's 46. He might have all the experience, he might be strong, but I feel like I'm just in a good prime position in my life. I can learn the MMA game pretty quick. I've picked up a lot in the 8 months, 9 months I've been training. So I feel like another 3-4 months I could be good enough to give Mariusz a good run for his money.
Yeah, I mean, it makes all the sense in the world, and it's something I know millions of other people would want to watch. I think the question you're going to get, and I'm going to apologize for being the first person to ask it, is, well, what about Thor? Can we get that rematch? And do you reckon he'd do it in MMA, or do you think there's no chance he would ever cross over?
I don't think Thor wants to fight again, and I'm being truthfully honest now. I think he was very lucky the run up that I had to that fight. Like, I literally went into that fight one arm. And I'm at the point now where I don't want to do business with someone that is not a sportsman. I don't want to do business with someone that I hate. I don't want to put money in the pocket of someone that I don't like. If Thor were to come out and apologize for what he's done to me in the past and just say, you know what, you won World's Strongest Man 2017 hands down, you won fair and square, I apologize for my comments, then I'd fight because I wouldn't have any personal attachment to it. But as I say, I'm not going to do any more business with someone that can't be a sportsman.
Understandable. So is this, do you think the next fight might be the last one? Because obviously it's the culmination of two big, strong men coming together and it makes all the sense in the world. Or do you see yourself fighting again and again and just sort of seeing how this journey takes you?
I'm seeing how the journey takes me. I mean, look, if I go in and can hang with someone like Mariusz Podnocki, then I think there is an avenue for me. I'm not saying I could walk into the UFC and compete with the top tier UFC guys because they're just going to, the skill level is just well above and beyond what I can even comprehend. But there are fighters out there that would suit my skill set, my size, my strength. Mariusz is a perfect one. We've got people like Bob Sapp, we've got Martin Ford, we've got Brian Shaw. We've got people that are quite keen to cross over and do these things, and they are spectacles. It's a freak versus a freak. I don't see any point in me, like, for God's sake. I mean, geez, imagine if I got in the ring with Tom Aspinall. I would just get absolutely obliterated, and that's not entertaining, is it? And it's almost like what's the right word? It's sort of nullified before you even get in there. You know the result. Whereas with me and Mariusz, I think I can honestly, hand on heart, say, like, I'm gonna go in the ring with Mariusz, and I don't think anyone can honestly say that Mariusz is 100% going to win. And I think that's why this works.
I'd agree with that. And actually, you bringing up Bob Sapp, I'd love to see that too. That's a couple of specimens opposite each other there. That could be quite entertaining as well.
I mean, Bob Sapp's massive. He's 6'6". He's still, I think he's my weight. He's still 360, 370 pounds. And he's got lots of experience, and and again, people forget this, like people like Bob Sapp. Yes, we always see the videos of him getting battered and, crying on the floor of an injury, but we don't see the footage of him absolutely beating the shit out of world champions. And he has done, world champion kickboxers. So
I think also
there is a place for us.
I think someone your size as well, it's sort of, obviously the skills are going to play a factor, but when you're someone your size, if you land, it doesn't really matter the skill set of the other opponent, they're probably going to go to sleep, So it's the great equalizer, right? Wherever you fight, I think you'll be able to be in the fight.
I think that's where the UFC have sort of left the door wide open. Is they've put I think what's the top weight limit? Is it 260 pounds?
265.
265. I mean, I weighed 265 when I was literally like 19 years old. So it's but I think there's a massive scope for I'm going to call it like a Titan division. Like a 260 to 400. They just leave it open. I think there's a scope, and I think that's what the world's missing, and this is what these kind of fights like me and Mariusz bring to the table.
For sure, man. I'm looking forward to watching the journey. I love your YouTube content as well. I'd advise everyone to go check that out, and appreciate you taking the time with me today. As soon as I saw the video, I was like, I've got to talk to him about the fighting twins and fighting brothers, and it was such a perfect right hand. It really was.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed myself, man. It was a complete mismatch, but like I say, the dangers were there, weren't they? There were people in the crowd, like my buddy was watching, he was saying there was people in the crowd. There was a couple of Polish guys that were absolutely adamant that I was going to get battered. There's no doubt in their mind that these twins are going to do me. So, there was the element, because it's 2v1, it just brings that, what is going to happen? It's just, and that's why I enjoyed it, and that's why I took it.